actually an associate professor for us at the University of Derby. He teaches in Wales. He's very Welsh, so it'll probably take you a few minutes to get used to understanding him, I think that's fair to say. So take your time,
I will talk slowly to you.
As they do, no, but it's great to have him here. And I also think it's a great topic he's talking about, because we had a lot of professional practice engagement, slightly more on the commercial side than maybe on the artistic side. So Peter's going to cover the art side of that, which is equally important. And as you know, I personally don't like to make that distinctions, because I think the boundaries are very kind of flowing. But, you know, there is professional practice in an arts context that is slightly different from a commercial context. And so it's quite important to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, we'll see what will come out of my head. It's not quite sure what will happen, to tell you the truth there. So if it's a little bit scatty, well, bear with me right there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about professional practice and what professional practice means, and some of my own experiences within this sort of arena. What was the opposite then of professional practice? Unprofessional practice. Could you give me some examples of unprofessional practice? You're smiling there, so something's coming to your head there. What would unprofessional practice be? No? Anybody else then?
Turning up late to a job.
Speak up, I'm a bit deafer.
Turning up late.
Turning up late
to a job.
Okay, yeah, messing things up or whatever. Yeah. Anything else? No? You don't know what unprofessional practice is, right? It's always good to have an opposite to start from, right? So, like, kind of, if you want to be professional, then you have to have an idea of sort of what's unprofessional, right? I teach this module in Swansea called Professional Practice and Marketing Practice, and one of my co-workers who is working with me has a slightly opposite view of what professional practice is there, right? Where we come at it, right? I actually kind of quite think that there's a place, right, for slightly unprofessional practice there, so that you don't end up turning some sort of being robotic individuals with perfect portfolios, perfect haircuts, perfect shiny shoes and stuff like that you come through the art school system being individuals, right there, and not some sort of generic robotic student graduates, right there. So it's always important that you tailor your professional practice and professional needs to your own personalities and characters there, so you don't turn out some sort of capitalist robot right there. I actually kind of quite like things which are a little bit edgier, which aren't polished, which are a little bit rough there. When I graduated in fine art photography in Glasgow, that we weren't really taught too much, right, about kind of techniques, opportunities for work after graduating, and even portfolios there. So we just graduated with ideas, bits of idealism there, and we just sort of chucked out into the world right there. And it was quite a shock sitting out after 3 or 4 years of education that what you got to show for it, right, is just a slightly rag bag of ideas and some portfolio works which doesn't quite fit all together because everything was fairly fragmented. When I left college, I had like an A1 portfolio, right there. It's like when you come from foundation courses, where you got bits and pieces of everything right there, and you kind of this massive folder. And that's not quite cool, right? Like going into like a job interview, right there, or gallery situation where you got this A1 folder, which you can't travel by train or bus easy, right there. So that was a very harsh kind of a learning curve right there. Whereas now students come out from photography courses with like slick A4, A3 portfolio sizes, and they're just sort of unified and sort of and whole, whatever, right? It's not like some sort of rugbug portfolio, which I'm sure that you sort of do here right in Derby. Probably you do portfolio works second, third year. Probably. I would have thought, whatever. Sure, when you leave Derby, you could have like a portfolio with you right there. Also, when I left Glasgow, I didn't really have any skills as well. I could learn a little bit about kind of black and white darkroom work right there. But basically everything was about fine art ideas. There's nothing really that I could take to this sort of marketplace and just say, this is what I can do, right. So what I did after graduating was work in Mission, what's it called, street level gallery in Glasgow, and able to get some work experience there through doing voluntary stuff, right there. And this begins to help me get like a little foot on the ladder there. So working in a gallery situation, volunteer, you're dealing with the public, you're learning sort of a language to talk about art, right there. They give you responsibilities like organising bookshops, you help install a work there, you help to kind of communicate with other artists and ideas there. So that was kind of a good way for me to get a foot up the ladder right there from graduating, going into some sort of professionalised sort of arts sort of environment. And also working as a volunteer allowed me then to, I don't know, kind of a work on portfolio, use the dark rooms after the place had shut up for the evening there, and that helped me get like an exhibition there. So voluntary work and work practice, right, is something which is sort of essential for your learning and for your CVs there. Anybody do any voluntary work? Anything there? Okay, what do you do there?
I did a bit over the last summer at a gallery in Coventry.
Okay, good there. But also it doesn't have to be the arts sector as well, right? It can be charities and stuff like that, really, though, as well. It's just good, right? So you're out in the world kind of gathering sort of experiences, right there. Because, unfortunately, right there, art is just one part of the production of being an artist or whatever, right there. I wish we could just work as photographers, artists, just spend time being really creative, right? But unfortunately, that just is one field of being an artist, right? It's just the other parts of being the artist are like the horrible bits, right? Which you've got to navigate through. And they sort of include, right, like the stuff like professional practice, right there, so which are like portfolio production, how you create packages for presentations, right, for shows, for grants and opportunities, learning about new technologies, earning a living, fundraising, networking, acquiring new and transferable skills, curatorship, copywriting, writing as well, right, not only artist writing, but maybe writing critiques about other people's work as well, so you can help build up a profile of your name, being involved in sort of published reviews, stuff like that, right? That's quite important. Also, navigating the role and relationship of the artist to public, private and alternative gallery spaces is kind of quite important as well there. And inquiring the organisational and research skills, stuff like that. It's all this stuff, I reckon it comes naturally to students, right? It'll be like a part of your process, right? You're going to get work together, put them into a portfolio, then you do a package which will be like a CV, artist writings, business cards, and all that type of stuff. This thing is something which you're going to do anyway, right? But the more conscious that you are of a decision making involved in it, right, the more in control you'd be, right, of your careers, which will help you. The professional practice will help you go where you need to go, right? It can sort of help accelerate practice as well. Things aren't always, careers aren't always managed by sort of kind of the major galleries, right, and art agencies, right. Being proactive and creating your own scene is equally important, because not many people after graduating can go straight into like kind of one-person exhibitions, right, in established galleries. You have to start from grassroots level up, which is the most fun part of it, right, because you're dealing with communities, and also that you're dealing with friends as well, right, and like-minded people. It's best to be part of a gang as opposed to maybe working individually, because if you're a group of people together approaching councils for alternative shop spaces, right, if an individual just says, I want this space, they might not sort of approach that person with the same sort of seriousness as if it's like a group of people approaching institutions and groups, right. So form groups, right, and informal networking, because that's really, really important, because each of you, hopefully you're all friends with each other, right, and friends with previous years, right, who've graduated, some of the years sort of underneath you. So you become a part of this sort of community of Derby graduates, which will be able to like support each other and help you kind of for opportunities, because that's kind of the key thing really, right there, is communities and sharing information and sort of making things happen on your own terms as opposed to top-down sort of projects that you initiate things yourselves, right, now that your second year, if I'm right, but these are things which you sort of take on board, right, in your second year and forward to your kind of artist sort of careers in the future there. So that's really important in being gangs, right, and networking, right, utilise staff resources here as well, right, make Heike, Vered, Colin. Is John work here anymore, right there? Okay.
You've had John last year, but no, he's not.
Okay, right there. Make these people work for you, right, they're there to help and to like assist you. Just because you might graduate in a year's time, that doesn't mean that's the end of a relationship, right, tutors should always be there for the previous graduates, right, so any graduate who needs to contact me about, I don't know, information, opportunities, or they just want to chat about portfolio, stuff like that, I'm always there, open to them, right, so you use staff as resources as well, right, to help you kind of move on in your careers. Last 15 years, right, there's been like a massive shift in technologies, from analog technologies to digital technologies, and we're still in the middle of this soup thing, right. When I graduated from my MA at University of Michigan, when was that, about 96 and 97, the internet was still new, right. We had access to email, but what's the point of having email, right, when nobody else had email? So who would I send email to, right? Friends and family at home didn't have any email. You could just send it to other students who I'd see on campus anyway. So what's the point of email? And the web, right, there's only probably 2 or 3 websites available there. So you spend all your time playing computer games like Tetris and stuff like that. So in the last 15 years, there's just been a massive like sea change in technology, and we've got to understand it and utilise this for our own means or whatever, right? And it is what I've been trying to do in my own practice, is to merge kind of analog and digital technologies together as well, because I come from a kind of an analog tradition, very strong black and white sort of sort of work, whatever, right there. So very dark room fetishized work to begin with, but digital technology opens up kind of new possibilities, right there. So with these prints, right there, but they start off, right, from maybe images this size, rather kind of a finely crafted 11 by about 9.5 prints. Then this scans, colour profiled, spotted, and then reworked right there into kind of large scale there. So this is one way to combine analog and digital printing there, because to get the quality which I'm looking for, you can't do that just using, I know, black and white darkroom stuff right there, because trays, you don't get 60 by 40 trays right there. To the and colour, temperature corrected chemicals right there. So you've got to marry both technologies together, and that's a part of the project which I'm sort of working on now, right, trying to perfect that. So you do large scale, kind of highly crafted images right there. So technology as well, right, is really an important aspect for you to learn right there. So having a whole range of transferable skills right there will make you much more attractive to job opportunities out there. People want skills like Photoshop, design skills, Excel skills, stuff like that, whatever, right there, because that's the type of way which kind of the arts and creative industry is going. Black and white darkroom work can help you so far, right, with creative language, but if you can kind of marry both things together, you'll be in like a stronger position there, because there's certain stuff, right, in pre-visualizing things through analog, like C-type prints, right, and darkroom work, which you can't quite get in digital. So if you can combine those two together, you'll be an advantage. Also, the way contemporary practice is going, right there, in arts world, that everything is going digital, right? So what's the route then for maybe analog technologies? Analog technologies might be much more maybe marginalized, right there, to like a fine art audience and fine art sort of market when they say digital technology, because nobody has darkrooms anymore. Nobody utilizes C40. Do you have C40 in Derby, or is it all digital? Colour machines, okay. Because that's still quite important, even though it's really fiddle to sort out the filtrations there, because the depths of qualities that you get in colour right there is much stronger than you get, let's say, maybe in digital. Possibly right there. It's a question of understanding your materials, right? So that's really important. So I would urge you right there, the more transferable skills that you have, like the better. So if you've got opportunities to do film editing skills as well, right there, items, Avid, stuff like that, just go for it right there. Because these are tools which will also help you with your practice. A few years back, also, parts of this are going to jump around right there, because that's the way organic lectures work right there. After photography backgrounds, and you get an opportunity, we'd like you to do some sort of commissioned piece. I got an invite a few years back, and I said, yeah, but I can't give you any photography-based work, right, because it's not suitable to this tent which we're working in, right. I says, what were you going to do? He says, I'm not sure. You just have to trust me, right? So you created some sort of performance-related work, right, which sort of fitted into the context of it. So it's important when you do get opportunities, right, and your skills don't quite fit what they say, right, but you just become positive to it, and you say, yes, I can do that. I'll have a go with it, right there. One of the biggest obstacles in a creative life, right there, is fear, right there. The fear of failing. But I say, fuck that, right? The more that you fail, the better, because you learn more from your mistakes than you do with work which you've totally thought out, pre-visualised and planned there. So these little raggedy bits of things which don't work, they are the grits where the pearls come out of, right there. So it's okay to do mistakes, right there. Fail gloriously, right there. So I recommend you to do. Problems also with being a student is that you worry about your grades, if I'm correct, right there. I worried about them when I was a student as well, right there. But if you put that to the back of your mind and to work on your own creative terms in a way which is honest to yourself, right there, you're going to gain more from that, right there, and through struggling and failing rather than playing safe there. That might be something for you to think about in the long term, right there. When I did my masters, I just went over that hurdle. I was getting these tutorials from staff members who would say, try this, try that, try this. So spend all your time trying things out, but you quite know in your heart of hearts is not what you want to do there. So I showed my tutors other projects which I keep in the mains ones for myself there. So when I had my MA show, it's totally fresh, but I hadn't seen it before, right there. But also it's a decision that I made, right, that if I get a lousy grade for it, right, then at least it'll be something that I wanted to do, right. So if I failed there, I'd failed on my own terms, right there. So removing that fear, right there, and just saying, yeah, this is what I want to do, stands by it. If it's crock of shit, whatever, or brilliant, at least it's my stuff and not anybody else's. So claiming ownership to your work, right, is really, really important. Then you begin to stamp your own character and individuality on your work there. And that's getting more attractive, right there, to like a larger audience where you get these awkward individuals who don't quite fit into this sort of generic type of work, whatever, right, or personality, art personalities, then, yeah, they become to stand out there. So that's kind of quite important, is about developing your own character and individuality, right there, because instead of being robotic graduates, which I'm sure you're not at all, right there. Are they, Heike? Yeah. So that's kind of, yeah, really, really important, that is. Portfolios, whatever, right there. Portfolios are something you should continuously sort of work upon, right? As I mentioned, right there, I did slightly rough and professional attitude to art worlds and to galleries, right there, which might not always be the best option, right? My images, right there, were contained in like in a 11.5 by 12 box in a plastic co-op bag or whatever. You get all the students coming out with black portfolio boxes, being professional. I thought I'll go this opposite way. Box, fantastic images in the co-op bag. First impressions are important, right there. But people might be charmed by that kind of lack of professionalism, or they might put their heads in their hands in horror, saying that this individual can't be bothered to kind of make his work look professional, so why do we need to deal with them, or whatever. That's something we might want to navigate yourselves. But I kind of quite like the charm of turning up somewhere with a co-op, plastic co-op bag, and just putting images out there. And if they couldn't see the quality of the images and the content of the images, well, F them, wherever, right there. But work is still work, whatever, right? Doesn't matter how you polish it, or whatever, right? Turn polishing won't get you anywhere, right? So, also, this is how I approach my own work for years and years and years, right? I've been working on this professional and marketing module, telling students that's an option they could go for. But students will have fantastic prints right there in portfolio boxes, even prints right there, beautiful borders, wonderfully sequenced, whatever right there, and you get really fantastic professional package there. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm up against my own students when I'm meeting curators, whatever, maybe I should up my game as well and enter into that kind of method of presenting. And people kind of bring it up, whatever, right? I thought you put your kind of work in plastic bags there. Yeah, that's what I did too, but it's quite important to evolve, right there. So when you're doing applications, right there, the work should be the first thing on your mind, right? Where you got fantastic images, well produced, well presented, well sequenced. Then you're going to produce other things to accompany the package, which are like business cards, postcards, artist statements, CVs and stuff like that. These are important as well, that because they are an extension of your own personalities and your own experiences, right there. So it's worthwhile, right, to mark every exhibition that you've been, or every sort of work experience for what you're doing. If you're like me, you tend to forget them, right there. So write them down so you forget absolutely no detail there, because it's quite surprising how quickly that they you forget them. So how you present yourself on paper is really, really important. Have you started working on CVs? In the back of your minds? Okay. For that, there's no right or wrong method for CVs, right there. You could put images on top of them, right there. So you got your images next to kind of information. Just make it look attractive, right there. So you got good design, good fonts there, good sort of basically kind of design relationships. A student of mine, Lena, she's from Estonia, and she has a very good sort of graphic sort of qualities, whatever, right there, and that type of stuff, whatever, right there, kind of well produced CV on nice paper. It just makes the individual more authoritative. Let's say if you got like a very cheap pieces of paper, whatever, right there, it just feels really flimsy already. So if you've got something a bit of weight in it, right, it just feels like authoritative there. So beware that. So what would be on your CV? Names, contacts, stuff like that, right? Education, experience, exhibitions, stuff like that there. Online, there's a whole kind of format of methods that you can follow, right there. Also, on the packages, or whatever, right, which people will ask for, right there. Another extension of your portfolios, right there, which will be on like kind of CD-ROMs. So get again a nice package together with images, contact names there, and kind of nicely designed stuff, right? So when you get like, if a client gets a really nice package dropped on the desk, right there, they're going to treat it with much more seriousness than, let's say, me coming in with CV in a plastic bag or whatever, right there. So it becomes a very professional extension of yourselves, right there. I'll pass this around and have a look at it, right there. Also, how you frame language is important as well, there. Because that's how you package yourselves in it, right there. Because people might not be quite not knowing that they're having an experience acquiring skills while they are, right? So like I say, if you're doing a group project, right, then you're learning to work within a team. If you're leading it, then you are like organising a team, right? These things are something which you might be doing, but if you frame them in another type of language, right, it sounds much more authoritative, right? So working in a bookshop in street level, you can frame that, right? That was about like managing some sort of store or whatever, or organising titles and lists and contacting publishers. Things which you just sort of did normally, find the right words for them. I'm like, bloody hell, did I do that? Right. So be aware of that, how you frame yourselves in it. Getting your work out there, right? So, you've got websites. Be working on websites for your own images, blogs, stuff like that, because that's kind of quite important. First port of call now with everybody is that on the web. It's they're not going to come knocking on your door anymore or whatever, right? They're going to see what's out there. So having a web presence is really, really important there. The blog might be useful as well to keep things up to date there. There are some professionalised websites now. Access website, that's pretty good. A load of recent graduates are included in that. It might be a fee for about £20 a year. And that's a good context for your images to be shown in. There's another more professionalised site called LinkedIn. It's like a grown-up version of Facebook. Facebook is useful as well, right? To publicise activities and events like that. But also, you could be careful of what images are out there of you, or how you treat the web. For an example, I say a technician in Swansea. Let's say if a worker puts some stuff which on the web which have trashed their working environment or whatever, then that's in the public domain and it's not good like that. So be careful of what information that you put out there, because it might come back and bite you like that. I know some staff as well, members, kind of checking up the students on their Facebook sites or whatever. Some students were ill. So we check them and they say, oh, they're not ill, they were partying last night, right there. So be careful, right there. It can become a means of surveillance or whatever, right there. I also, it's a weird world out there with stalkers and stuff as well, right. So just be careful of the information that you put on yourselves on websites. And maybe the same, right there. For contact details on sort of business cards and website information as well, right there. So you might not want them to contact you through your main private address, and you set up another address right there. So that begins to create a distance between yourselves maybe and maybe some possible clients out there. Also, think about the web, right there. If I can go to my website. How do I get out of this psyche now?
Escape. The escape key. Top left.
Press escape?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you go to the bottom. Safari. So where you go? Left. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So websites like that, how much information do you want to put in photos do you want to put on websites there? Because everybody's so lazy these days, right? They use the web as a means, right, just to consume images. So I've got 20 years of work which I can put up there, and people, right, I can just skim through them in 4 or 5 minutes or whatever, right? I just consume. And it still won't be enough, right there. They would want more there. So figure it out. How much work do you want to put out there, right? If you want to keep some work back, right? So if you do show it to agencies, galleries, clients, right? There's more surprise of them, right? Because we're seeing new images as opposed to seeing stuff which is already on the webs, right? So that's quite an important consideration. One of my friends, Richard Leroyd, anybody come across his work? No? Okay, does these camera-less images, so they create kind of unique pictures right there, and he took them to a gallery, I think it's in New York or somewhere, right? And the guy loved the images because of the selling points, right? They were just unique shots, right? Because they were done in a camera-less camera and projected onto Cibachrome paper, put into the machine, right? So they'll just be single images, which made the editions more kind of collectible, being of one there. So he chose, when the gallery picked him up, right? He chose to take absolutely everything, every image he's had before off the web there, and just leave one image there. So he's using the web in much more like an exclusive form there. So then these people now have to go directly to the galleries, right, and ask to see images, right, as opposed to just devouring stuff on the web there. So it's well worth considering, right, if you put whole bodies of work up there, right, or not there, because people will just suck images up from it there. So with my work, right, I tried to be at least fairly generous, right, and show a whole bunch of projects which I've done. And I think this has been up there for maybe about 3 or 4 years, maybe a bit longer. And I don't think I've had that much response or opportunities there. There's lots of hits there, but nobody's coming back and saying, we love you to do this or whatever. They just have check out what you're doing, whatever. So I'm not quite sure yet on how to navigate the web properly. But I'm just testing it out as well. I'm trying to be generous, make the work more accessible to like a wider audience. And I think blogs are kind of quite important as well, just to give a sense of presence of what you're doing out there to like the general arts community. And then you do end up having like a fan base, right, who are interested in the activities that you get up to. Do you work with film as well? Anybody work with film? Okay, there. Do you put your stuff out on the internet?
Not straight away. You want to make sure it's edited in how you want it to be.
Mm.
It's got sound. You want the sound you want and the editing that you want, and you want it to be finished. You don't want something that's half done.
Okay.
It takes time to do all that as well.
Okay.
And then you've also got size issues as well. So how big the film is. Like I've just got a film that's about 5 gig. If I can't put the whole thing out there, I've got to cut a section of it just to show as that section, and then say this is what an idea of what
I think that might be better if you see a little segment out there, right? They'll just keep a little bit of taster on it there. Yeah. What sites do you use there?
YouTube usually, but Vimeo's a lot better to use if you go more professional. And then sort of a lot of people use Vimeo and then show on other websites through Vimeo over YouTube. YouTube's a lot more less professional. YouTube's much more like mass market. Vimeo is much more sort of like professionalised kind of audience and community. It's a bit like the same with kind of LinkedIn and Facebook. So it's a way of targeting your audience then and being a part of this wider kind of a creative community. I think kind of also in a general way about kind of developing all these skills, right, is important because if you learn new software, new programs, starting kind of just thinking about documentation in films, right, it can open up a whole range of kind of artistic practice there. So just say because you come from a photography degree, right, it doesn't mean it's totally medium specific. It's like lens based more than anything like that. A lens based can include like cheap digital cameras, kind of high-end HD cameras, stuff like that, right there. It's the whole process of productions of things, of images through lens. And the images might be performative things, so not just being a photographer recording the stuff in front of you, but participating in front of it, right? These options, and more control over the options, opens up possibilities of how you get your work out there. So with my practice, started off with photography, did some installation work through just saying, yes, I can do this stuff, and just testing things out right there, to more sort of filmic work then. Because a lot of the pictures are, I don't know, kind of a fairly set up things or whatever, where we deal with time and duration. And the camera just records one segment of this ongoing sort of experience there. So it lends itself really well to like film. So that's a part of your artist practice then, right, okay, let's see where that journey takes us to. And where does that journey take us to? It takes us to the Venice Biennale in 2005. I can find that. Now, let's see if any of this comes up, whatever. Yeah, quickly show you. This is the first film I ever did, right there. Not sure. I'm not sure where this comes in terms of professional practice, right there. But this is a starting point.
Does it say sound?
Yeah. Isn't technology fantastic? Just pick stuff up like that and show them. I thought it was quite funny. Right. It's okay to use art as a means of humour. Does that come up? That's a new one. Not seen that one before. Yeah. So in a way, just developing your own practice, letting it go where it goes, whatever. For that exhibition. Let's have a look. Yeah, let's go back one. So these little films which I sort of did right there, because I'm working with ideas of green issues and performance, is ideal for this sort of location in green sheds in Venice there. So for some reason my work fitted in really well in that venue. The creator had come across my work before, said I'm perfect fit there. So keeping the profile out there is important as well there. How about right there? So with the gallery that you worked in Coventry, was that an artist-run space?
It was like Herbert Art Gallery. I don't really know how it was run. I was just
okay. Right.
What
about the recession? What do you think about the recession? Is the recession a good thing for artists or a bad thing, or a mixed blessing there? It's a mixed blessing really, right there. Good part of recession, right there, is lots of empty shop fronts there. So there is room right there for artists and communities to get in, take over for a weekend and just do stuff right there. For that right there, You just need to be organised and driven for it. It's quite important just to make things happen. It's not just about sitting at home waiting for the phone, somebody to ring you and says, for opportunities to come. You go out there, shake trees, make things happen, get in people's faces, stuff like that. Right. And lots of communities across the UK now, that's what they're doing. I know in Cardiff and in Swansea, they're using these shop fronts for a week or two and creating film festivals and bringing their audiences to like a greater public. Also, what people are doing at the same time, right, is that they're building up their own careers at the same time through organisational skills, dealing with councils, dealing with shops, right, organising artists together. And some of the most successful artists have turned out, when I was in college, have turned their hand into creation and sort of and making things happen there. Yeah, they're like the fixers, the people who can do things there. So they develop language and confidence, right, to help other artists' careers, right, so they're finding their own career niche, right, through curating. So that's also options for you, right. It's not just being a visual artist, right, but there's a whole field of stuff out there, because the arts is one of the largest sort of kind of career places out there in the marketplace, right. There's a wonderful program on Start the Week a few weeks back. Anybody listen to that? To Start the Week with Andrew Marr, and they interviewed Anthony Gormley, a few people from the Royal College of Art, and they were making the case for arts, right, the use of arts in today's kind of recession, depressed economies, right. It's really good. These people weren't being defensive about art there. They're saying arts actually can generate income into the economy. It's really important. What was I on about the market? Yeah, so we can use internet in terms of marketing and promotion to empower your work, right there. How about the other kind of crappy bits of arts marketing, like pricing and editions and contracts? That anybody thought about that? What would the worth of an image be? How much would you sell one of yours? When it comes to your third year, right there, if you get a show in London, right there, somebody comes up to you and says, I really love this piece, I want to buy it, right there. If you figure out beforehand what it's worth, right there, and you say, yeah, this is worth 300 quid, instead of going, I don't know, I'll go talk to a tutor about it. So if somebody comes up to you and says that, then so, yeah, I've nailed the figure, right there, that's what it's worth there. Yes, everybody should think about that right there. See what sort of value sales might be there. Now, plumber might do a job for you for about 150 quid, right? But will people buy an image for 150 quid? Do you go down the Richard Leroy route, right? Why you sell one image for thousands of pounds? Or do you go down the Alan Sugar route of selling millions or thousands of images for small amounts, right? So that's where there might be spaces, right there, in like postcards, posters, calendars and stuff like that. There's a potential mass market out there if you know how to access it there. And you can sell 3,000 images or whatever for about 50 quid or less or whatever, right? So there's more chance for that, right? Rather than selling one image for 10 grand. So you sort of figure the relationship between your work and its potential to like the market. So we're figuring out editions as well, right there. What would an edition be there? Anybody would edition? Any ideas? Do you sell your work in editions, Psyche? How much? How much editions? Right, editions, whatever, right there.
Yeah, the other question I can't.
Yeah, there. I should not ask.
10. No.
10. Okay.
But it varies a bit. Depends on
the series. Depends what you're working on. If it's a single piece, you probably. Well, it depends how I don't know how much you want it out there.
It is tricky, right? I haven't answered it right. I'm beginning to get there. For that, are there 10 people out there willing to buy your work right there?
There haven't been so far, no.
Yeah, and it's the same with 3 right there.
It's a judgment of
between.
It's the same thing as selling 3,000 images for 50, and even if you go out of that and edition your work, you know, if you only got one. If it's just a straightforward photograph, I don't think it's very credible these days because you know. And some artists, for example, we've got Tillmans. He's not very specific about his editions, at least not up front.
Yeah.
It's not you know next to the image, and there it's a bit more ambiguous how many he sells. Even though I think ultimately he has to pin it down somewhere. But you know, it's scarcity against how many can you sell. Yeah, and I guess you would need to talk to a gallery because once you are in that bracket, I think it's a gallery thing normally, or somebody who can help you with that, and it really depends on the work and the market. If you had a piece of work that, for example, could fetch 300 quid at free range next year, you need to think about, well, if I sold it for 200, maybe I could sell it to 10 people. And seeing what it is free range is more likely to happen than to sell it at 300, 400, 500 quid to one person. Do you see what I mean? So, and the same applies if you then in a proper gallery, higher markets, it all goes up. So, but there's been a standard in photographic work that it's been sold in small editions. And they're normally between 3 and 10, unless you got photographs like of Leroy, which are originals, where you don't do that, which are then worth much more.
It's just something we should consider somewhere down the line, right there, and its implications, right there. I haven't sold that much myself, right there. Sometimes you don't want to sell stuff, right there, when you spent ages in the darkroom crafting that. I'm not going to sell that for a few 200 quid or whatever. It's just taking me ages to do, and I'm not going to get the opportunity to print like that again, probably, right there. So you can price people out, right there. Right there. So these images stay in your own portfolio there. It's a difficult one, right there. I like the idea of hazy editions where you don't quite commit to it, right there. Because for me, right there, nobody's asked me whatever. And if they have, right there, then I'd say they are in editions of something about 3 and 7 maybe, right there, I think, right there. Unless now, if I nail down printing properly, right there, large-scale images on digital, right there, and I can get a workflow to be pretty smooth and simple, then the editions might go up. But I'm not sure if there is a market out there for my work yet. There might be.
I mean, you've got to be careful though. We had, did anybody go to Fred Munn's lecture last year? Fred Munn, gallerist, he gave a lecture.
Yeah, was that?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. Some have seen it. He's a commercial gallery in London dealing with all sorts of art, particularly photography. So he's got about 10, 12 artists. And he was talking a lot about professional practice and what not to do and what to do. And it is, if you can be cagey because you don't have a gallerist.
Yeah, so I don't have to commit.
If you were operating at another level, and if you have an edition, for example, of say edition of 10, but they're 10 by 12 inches large. Yeah. If you then issue another edition that is 8 by 10 inches, people will get really, really pissed off because it's too close to the original edition. So you need to be actually careful that you're quite clear. And he gave a few examples of people who have taken, shortcuts. And once your name is ruined in a certain country scenario or art scene, you don't need to try again. So you need to be really, really careful to be professional about this, and also to work with people who are professional about this. If you enter a certain market, if you're cagey about it and don't mention it, then you know it's mutually. But normally it is mentioned, and I think anybody who knows their stuff and buys something, maybe not for 200 quid, but maybe they want to keep it open as well. But if it goes higher than that, they will want to know what they're buying naturally.
That's quite important about sizes, because I know Sally Mann produces editions in different sizes, and that's one way to just operate revenue streams from one negative. So you get 12, I don't know, about 11.5 by 12 is when you go up a big scale or whatever, right? And about 20 by 24, right? To create a distinct differentiation in scale. I maybe have 2 or 3 really massive images. So she's able to generate profits. We have to also consider, will you oversaturate the market with that? I'm thinking about my films, right? How do I squeeze a little bit more cash out of them? What happens if I do stills out of them, right? And sell them as posters? So that's something I'm thinking about, And if I do my second part of my website, right, that's something I need to really nail and clarify, that just the marketing part of that, right. So it becomes like a shop. So I do, as an extension to portfolios, right, I might sell a portfolio of 20, 30 images from one project, right, as a portfolio. I might create artist books out of them. I might create a set of posters. I might do sequences of DVDs. I might actually even produce calendars as well. What about cheesy is that? Cheesy, there might be space for cheesiness right there. I think I like the idea of calendars right there. So it also gives you a year in advance to figure it out. It also can turn it into an artwork through introducing text to it right there. So what happened in December the 10th, whatever, some point, whatever, right, some details from history, right, they can just sort of put that in there, or some random pieces of information. It might be thematic, it might be just details about artists' lives on it, photographers' lives, or saints' lives, or something kooky, like animals in cinema, stuff like that. So you can manipulate it, something commercial into something a bit more conceptual and artistic. Also, making the work available through different cultures. That I'm keen to figure out if I can put all this sort of information on the website that in Spanish, German, Japanese, Chinese, stuff like that, possibly Welsh as well. If I put it out in Welsh, I might get funding to do these other translations for it. So that begins to open up global possibilities. I'm not quite sure about that, but something which I want to test out. What you said about you being unprofessional as well, right? How about pissing people off, right there? I think there's a space for that, right? You come across that Mealy painting, Bonjour, Mr. Corbier, was it? Where this kind of a patron of a commission, Mealy to do a painting of him there, and he's done this commission, and he greets his patron. His patron is stooped down like this, or whatever, right there. And the artist is like that, looking at him, and we're meeting a mountain scene there. So this is a commissioned painting, it was 1800s, done in a kind of a social realistic sort of way, right? But also it was commissioned, right? We didn't show the patron in some heroic light, right? So the artist is talking about power relationships, right? Who's in control of this commission? It's not this guy who hands the money over to the artist, but the way the artist sort of depicts this sort of transaction, right? So probably, right, Mealy would have probably pissed off his patron like that, right? And I do think there is a role, right, for arts to be provocateurs, to agitate, stuff like that, right? Just to be a little bit rebellious. Especially if you can't do it while you're young, right? It gets harder and harder to do it when you get older. So when you're young, you can start beginning to play around a little bit with power structures if you needed to do it, right? And become a little bit abrasive and awkward. But the other hand of that, right? So if you do develop as a narrative about yourselves, as a friend of mine does, if you turn up to a gallery pissed constantly, rather, slagging off the kind of the curators and kind of the people who work there, it doesn't create a good impression. Even the personal artwork might be good art, rather. It's just nobody would want to work with somebody who's just awkward and abrasive and difficult, rather. That's but there is.
Are you awkward, Peter? Are you awkward? Are you nice to deal with?
Nice to deal with now. Used to be awkward there. Used to be kind of curators had hang my images wrong or whatever, right there, just really horrible, so right in the comments book stuff, right there. And then they get really angry with me and phone me up and stuff and saying I was being unprofessional. I says, was I ever professional? Right there. But no, I'm trying to be smooth now, right there, because it's just too much hard work being awkward and abrasive, right there. Just too much hard work. It's just want to get the work out where the best as it can be seen there. So that then involves, which you're implying, right, there's about developing communication skills, right, and listening to other people's point of view and needs and not being too defensive about it. So I've mentioned about the use of language, right, so you might want something to look like this really, really badly, but you don't show the curator or whoever it is, right, what you really want, right? You go on this roundabout meander, whatever. Says, what do you want? What do you think? Blah blah blah, whatever. So you build this relationship up on dialogue. This might sound a bit disingenuous, whatever, right? But if it works, it works, right? So this way, right? You have this dialogue, and hopefully you get to a mutual understanding where the best of the work could look like, right? And conversations don't always have to be smooth. The friction is really, really important as well, right? Because through friction you can get things to happen there. So actually there is room to be angry, stand your ground about kind of your own ideas and creativity. Right there. Being angry makes things happen. Especially if you've got a contract, right there. People tend to, kind of fob you off if you're too nice, I think, right there. So you've got to have your kind of the markers which you're not going to cross. Work's going to look like this, stuff like, and try to work with the language to reason your case there. That's kind of quite important. I think that's really, really important for interview situations as well. Again, communication and dialogue, right? That you're prepared, right? That you know in advance what you're going to say, how you're going to respond, right? So the more prepared that you are, the more in control you will be there. There's no point in being an inarticulate artist or photographer anymore, right? Other people will run rings on you. And a good way to develop language is in critique situations, right there. How do you deal with critiques there? have a source of endless pleasure for you, but you can't shut up, right? You're just going to keep on talking about your work forever and everybody else's work, or do you feel, oh God, I'm going to talk about this again, like that? Oh. Because that's how I felt in critiques. They're like, oh, because images is something which is really personal to you, right there, and there's you expose a lot of yourself when you put this work out there. So if it's a negative comment about the work, then it becomes feel like an attack on your own personality or character. If you can find a way beyond that, so it becomes less defensive, and it is about opening up dialogue, right there, then you're in a better position. Say, no, this, people being defensive, no, this means this. This definitely means that. I'm not allowing that interpretation to come into it there. You can just say things as well. That's the beauty of art, especially. Right? You can just say random stuff. Absolutely random, surreal way of kind of streams of consciousness when you look at an image or whatever. And that's kind of makes dialogue a bit more fun as well. So it doesn't have to be very precise, articulated, kind of well thought out arguments, right? Even though that helps. It can be just the gush of your personality, just articulating about ideas. Because that tends to be more attractive to kind of bosses, curators, interview situations. So what's your work about? And you go, oh, I don't know about that. Oh, it's just about stuff. Just about, so I did. I like it, you know. So it doesn't work right anymore. Looking at your shoes, that's what I recommend my students. Go into a situation, never look them in the eye, always look at your shoes like that. That's always attractive. A big positive eye contact, right? Willing to communicate, right? People invest in individuals mainly, right there, rather than, let's say, other parts. They believe in the individual maybe more than, let's say, the workers. Do you watch the Dragons then? It's quite interesting from time to time, just how people sort of respond to ideas and how creative ideas might get articulated. Also, there's one guy a few episodes back, or series back, called James Caan, and he just liked people. He just invested in people. Says, your idea might be crap, I don't believe in it, but I believe in you, right? I want to invest in you. So that's the same in the arts world, right? People just like you for your positivity, your creativity, or your manner, or whatever. There's something about that individual that they just say, yeah, we'll take you on board, we'll give you a break there. Same, talking about Richard again. Richard's friend selling these unique pictures. He got a job in Bournemouth. He didn't have an MA. He went for a job interview. People liked him, said, yeah. And you don't have experience? We don't care. We like you. Have a job. We start on Monday. So that's part of it as well, right, is developing your own character and your own personality and individuality. It's not all about being some sort of robotic, generic photographers with perfect portfolios, right, and sort of well-articulated thoughts about things. The world's chaotic and random. Stuff happens. Connections are made right there. The best parts of a creative life are unexpected, chancy things, randomness and chaos. That's the beauty of it. And you can manage chaos right there. Chaos is fun because you don't try to control it. You just go with the flow. So that's why it's important to say yes to opportunities, because you don't quite know where the outcomes will take you, right there. Like I said, when I had the opportunity in 2000 to do performance art, nothing I've done before, and that basically led on to more performance arts, which I got showed in Venice Biennale eventually, right there. And yeah, it's a fantastic journey. And yeah. embrace chaos. Yeah, but articulating is really important, and maximising opportunities and developing language, and try to maybe have an overview of sort of the market in which you're heading towards, whatever. Which I'd say, whatever, just get as many transferable skills as possible, right? Work experience, stuff like that, right? Make the tutors work for you as well. Finish off stuff, right? If you finish off a project, you're happy with it, right? Send it off to competitions. It's hard work, right? Creating a package for competitions with a kind of a JPEGs, fantastic looking JPEGs, CV, stuff like that, right? The artist statement. It's good practice, really good practice. I'll finish off in this, right? Now that package I handed over, right there. Alina's from Estonia, so her English for a statement is not the best as it can be, whatever, right? But it does have a lot of spirit and like about it, but like the design quality, especially. I lost my thread of consciousness there. I was talking about competitions. Yeah. So just send stuff out, right? Create packages, work on artist statements, right? A very beautifully crafted artist statement is like wonderful. Problem is to get really good statements, you need to write it 2, 3, 4 times, right? Really nail it down into very precise language, right? And put your own personality into it, so it doesn't turn into like jargon, art jargon, right? It's about you in there. You combined or putting yourself in relationship to photographic ideas, photographic art history, contemporary practice, how this opportunity will help you advance your career. So it's about framing a language to sell yourself. Do people send stuff out there? Any competitions? Anybody? Why not? It's for the second years. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? Why did you send stuff out then?
I just don't think it's strong enough, or it's not finished, or I just don't think it's complete and it's ready to go out there. And
okay.
But like you said, if we start writing artist statements, and then you sort of got at least something to do.
The thing is, if let's say that it's an incomplete package, work's not quite resolved or finished ever, but the other parts are good ever. CV, artist statements, right? You can build on those, right? They then become your next draft, whatever. For when you're applying for something else, right? You've got the body of sort of information already there, instead of sending things up the night before, right? And you're standing all night writing CVs and things. This is just in your locker already, just to take out. Eventually, whatever, 1-page CV, front and back, just good, whatever, right there. Eventually, as your careers progress, right there, you have pages get to 4, 5, and 6, right there. And then you taper all your CVs, right there, to those opportunities which turn up there. So maybe people care if you go like a CSC or an O-level in geology or whatever, right? So if they're more interested, probably, right, in your art practice. In a business school, I was looking on somebody's CV. So I was helping to validate a document. I'm a staff member. I worked in a record shop for 4 or 5 years, whatever, right? And that wasn't relevant for that package, whatever, right? So you just have to tailor your information to whatever is that you're applying for. I'll quickly do right. I don't want this to be totally dry, right, in terms of marketing, promotion, and publicity, whatever, right there. and show you some installations I've been involved in and give you very fast commentary.
Would it be good to have a break?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And then